I find it very interesting that the academics and theologians and the Smithsonian Institute have been so meticulous and successful in steering us away from the information that is so obvious and readily available to us. It seems to contradict their theology and way of thinking of their concepts of manifest destiny. However, it is interesting to see how careful and clever they are at explaining the existence of these thousands of ceremonial and burial mounds that fill the heartland. It is very difficult for me to believe anything that they tell me nowadays. Most people are not aware of the history that has been revealed about the Hopewell civilization. However, there is a detailed Christian history of them that has been so ignored and discredited. One of the reasons is because of a misconception is that this history contradicts mainstream theology. However, this history is all about Christianity and Hebrewism. This book validates the Holy Bible. They complement each other. This book is a history of the family that lived the Holy Land about 600 years BC. The father of this family was a prophet of God. After prophesying that the people of Jerusalem would be destroyed if the people did not repent, this created much contention. This family had to leave Jerusalem to save their lives.
People of Jerusalem, I am Lehi. I have dwelt at Jerusalem all my days. I am a man who fears God. I have had a vision. Even that I saw the heavens open, and I saw God sitting upon his throne.
Another mad prophet!
I have seen many things concerning Jerusalem, that it shall be destroyed, and the inhabitants thereof.
You are a fool!
Many shall perish by the sword, and many shall be carried away captive into Babylon. And this because of the wickedness and the abominations of the people of Jerusalem.
You should perish by the sword!
There is a Messiah coming who will redeem the world.
He speaks blasphemy!
I speak the truth!
Slay him!
Please listen!
They found their way down to the bottom of the Arabian Peninsula. They followed what was called the Incense Trail, which followed the coastline southward almost to the bottom of Arabia. They then turned their direction eastward. They went through a place called Nahom, where one of the members of the party died. After he was buried, they resumed their trek eastward. They found a lush mountainous area on the coastline. There was much vegetation in this place. They called this place Bountiful. Today this place is known as Silala Oman. They remained there for about 10 years. During this time they were commanded to build a sailing vessel. This place is a Shangri-La. Everything you would possibly need for a comfortable life. They had all kind of plants for their food. Plenty of food for their flocks. Everything you could possibly need in abundance. They even found different ores to make tools to build their boat. They named this place Bountiful. This explains why they would have a very hard time leaving this place. But the Lord had something different in mind for this people. Their life of luxury was not to be.
Nephi. It is good.
Lord, lead us to the promised land.
After completion they launched the vessel. At that time of the year natural currents steered them down around the Cape of Good Hope and up the west coast of Africa, across the Atlantic Oceans and landed in the Gulf of Mexico at the panhandle of Florida. Some Hopewell mounds in that area date to that time period. After a while, due to the contention, the families broke into two different communities. One group was highly religious, the other group not so, and was very contentious. So over a period of the 1,000 years there was some peace but a lot of wars. During this time, populations rose to tens of thousands. I would dare say millions. As the Hopewell burial mounds will attest to, they completely filled the heartland.
It is about 588 to 559 BC in the New World. Laman and Lemuel resent their younger brother Nephi and make plans to kill him. Following the Lord's direction, Nephi and his family flee to a new land.
With father gone, Nephi thinks to rule over us.
We have had much trial because of him.
It belongs to us to rule over this people.
Let us slay him.
Nephi, what is it?
They seek to take away my life.
Will we fight our own brothers?
The Lord has warned me that we should depart from them and flee into the wilderness. My soul grieveth because of mine iniquities. I am encompassed about because of the temptations and the sins which do so easily beset me. Awake, my soul. No longer droop in sin. Rejoice, O my heart, and give place no more for the enemy of my soul. Rejoice, O my heart, and cry unto the Lord and say, O Lord, I will praise thee forever. Yea, my soul will rejoice in thee, my God, and the rock of my salvation.
This book tells about many wars. It explains why many of the structures which were erected the way they were. The defense walls and the manner that they were laid out was ingenious. The only way the enemy could enter is at the place of entrance. So if the aggressors wanted to get in, they had to traverse these barricades arranged in these locations. This made them very vulnerable to the opposition. I copied a clip out one of Wayne May's YouTube presentations. Wayne May has been putting out these presentations for the last 10 years. Most of his information comes from this book. It explains the situation in more detail.
Alma 49 and 20, this is regarding the place of entrance. And this is one of the very best. Captain Moroni designed this. It worked for many, many years. It forced them to fight. The red guys are the attackers. The blue guys are the defenders. The red guys approach. They can't get over the wall. They can't go through the ditch. So they only go to the opening, which is what? It's a squeeze. And when you squeeze down, you get dense people. You get thicker targets, okay? As it gets dense, you just start shooting into that crowd. You don't care. Just shoot into the crowd. You're going to hurt people. And they come in there. Now they're in a crossfire for all you military guys. They're definitely in a crossfire. And the guys, if they can survive this and make it all the way to here, then they're going to meet a fresh army on the inside that's going to block those doorways. And now you have a fish in the barrel taking place. Killing field, designed by Captain Moroni. And this is demonstrated in Ohio.
The land directly across the Mississippi River to the west of Nauvoo has been identified as the city of Zarahemla. The book identifies the city as being the largest city in the heartland. At the time of Christ, it was larger than the city of London. Over 100,000 inhabitants. Before the Keokuk Dam was erected, they could not get boats past the Des Moines Rapids here at Nauvoo. There was a limestone shelf across the river. In the fall of the year, you could walk across the river on foot at this point. Right now there is an effort to prove the existence of the city. The Heartland Research Group has scanned hundreds of acres with the sophisticated magnetometer apparatus. They have recorded billions of readings combined with GPS locations. They have located thousands of fire pits. They have taken samples and now in the process of time dating them. Check out Zarahemla site on Facebook. I will pin these websites for you in my notes section. Of all the wars mentioned in this history, the Battle of Zarahemla has the most detail. The details are accurate enough that we can identify the exact location. The terrain around Nauvoo, Illinois, matches the terrain perfectly. In Chapter 2 of Alma is where this account is described. At the time of this war there was a major political confrontation. Not unlike the ones we're having today. The outcome of this war would decide who led this great nation. It was a major conflicts. Thousands of people were killed. The more religious group prevailed. I won't go into too much detail because there are much better descriptions of it on the internet. In YouTube search, The Battle of Zarahemla. I will leave a link in my notes at the bottom. Everyone wonders what the purposes of the Newark earthworks were for. But there are strong reasons for the Newark earthworks. The reason for the earthworks is embedded in this history. It is interesting that the octagon has some interesting features that had to do with the lunar cycle. A lot of the anchor points coincide with the rising and setting of the moon. As these events happen, they usually coincide with Hebrew holy dates. All of these structures represent different stages of the Lord's plan of salvation. This whole complex is the largest temple site in the whole world. It covers over 4 square miles. Each object has a meaning. The first one is a circle. It represents premortal existence. You next pass into the square enclosure, representing mortality. The state we are now in. The square shape indicates the 4 corners of the earth. We next pass on to the next realm. Some have preferred to it as the ellipse. It represents paradise. We all go there. We there mingle with family, friends, and associates. We then, according to our faithfulness, are assigned the path we will take to the next stage. The next stage being the octagon. It has a special meaning. The octagon shape is the seal of Melchizedek. This will be the place of mediation. After that we will pass through into the great circle, which represents eternity. This is what is known as God's great plan of salvation. One of the strongest references to annul Lars this plan in this history is Alma chapter 24 verse 14. It reads, "And the great God has had mercy on us, and made these things known unto us that we might not perish, yea, and he has made these things known unto us beforehand, because he loveth our souls as well as he loveth our children, therefore, in his mercy he doth visit us by his angels, that the plan of salvation might be made known unto us as well as unto future generations." What better way could there be of recording this plan of salvation than Newark Earthworks? An in-depth explanation of this plan can be found in a podcast by Rod Meldrum. Link in the notes. At the time of Christ, both the Lamanites and the Nephites were brought back into the fold. For the next 200 years, they lived together in peace and harmony. They prospered exceedingly. But this was not to last. By a period of time about, not quite 200 years, the Nephites had returned to extreme wickedness. More wars and contention. At this time the Lamanites had gained the upper hand. The Lamanites drove the Nephites into the north country to a hill in New York called Cumorah. At this place, the Lamanites destroyed the Nephites. This is where the book ends. But part of one group survived. They made their way down to Tennessee. This is where they were finally exterminated. The victors then became known as the Mississippians. I hate to call them the Northeastern Indians because they are of the Hebrew descent. They carry the DNA from the Holy Land. This history also includes the account of two different groups of people that migrated to this promised land as well. The first group arrived here at the time of the Tower of Babel. They were called Jaredites. Their voyage took them across the Atlantic Ocean. They came down the St. Lawrence River Seaway. They grew to be a great nation in the Northeast. They separated into two different opposing groups. By the time of Lehi's voyage they finally destroyed each other at the hill Cumorah. The second group came across the Atlantic Ocean from Jerusalem slightly after the time that Lehi left Jerusalem. They too came down the St. Lawrence Seaway. They migrated inland and settled Zarahemla. They were called the Mulekites. They did not make connections with the Nephites until later on in this history. At this time they merged and all became Nephites. This book can be found free online. It holds the histories of the Hopewell and Adiana Mound people. So if you have the slightest interest, and really want to know, forget the prejudice and with a prayer in your heart, you owe it to yourself to compare and open up this very interesting Hopewell world. It only cost you 1 click of the mouse. I have included the link to this book and other interesting links pertaining to this presentation in the notes below.